Hey, Gary.
Hi. How you going? How you doing, Alessandro?
Good. So this is a little interview for a website where we have a lot of successful professors that give something general about the philosophy of what they are doing. So the first question I have for you is how you partition yourself between geology and civil engineer. What do you
Not very
think?
well. My life has been led by interesting problems, and the interesting problems have tended to overlap right from the very beginning of my career. And by following the fun problems and then trying to either develop my own tools to solve them or find friends who have those tools, I automatically end up split between the two fields, and it's always been that way.
Okay, so which is your favorite topic?
That's very hard to say, but my PhD thesis was on river meandering, and there's also submarine meandering, and so meandering has been a theme of love for my whole life.
Okay. How do you think that the contribution of morphodynamics is going to be to geology in the next 50 years? What will be geology and civil engineering in the next 50 years?
I think we live increasingly in a world where humans are having a larger and larger effect on the surface of the earth, and to a certain extent the surface of the ocean as well. And as those effects become larger and to a certain extent unmanageable, if we don't know the physics of how things got to be the way they are today, we won't be able to predict what effect we're having on the future. And so it turns out that I think an understanding of basic processes is going to have a very, very important applied application. I think some people don't realize the rate at which we are resurfacing the Earth today.
Okay, wow. And what do you think is going to be the interaction? In where do you think is going to change dramatically? Actually, the school, the university will have new departments that will totally merge the two aspects of it, or?
Well, I have my own sort of prediction. I think eventually departments are going to fade away as research units. They will probably still exist because they're organizations that allow students to find jobs. So certain professions will look for certain people. But I suspect that researchers themselves will instead belong to 3 or 4 different clusters within a university, where a person might choose to be involved in a cluster involving microbiology, and a cluster involving climate change, and a cluster involving Earth surface processes, etc. Something that reflects people's fairly diverse interests and the need to cooperate across disciplines. We can't be a member of every cluster, we can't have friends with everybody, but I think having these cross-disciplinary clusters allows us to at least choose the people that we can work best with, that covers the skills that we need. The important thing I think about today's world is that no single person has the skills necessary to solve the problems we face, many of the problems we face today. You put together a team with different but overlapping skills and magic happens.
It's great.
And I think the universities are going to are moving in the direction of reflecting that organization.
Okay, I have another question. It's a little bit provocative, this one. I remember I was a student with you when you were kind of proposing a proposal about saving New Orleans from a possible big storm.
Yes.
And sure, somebody didn't really think that was a good proposal, but then sure you come, Katrina arrived. So if you look back on that, and what is your direction now on this topic?
Well, I fault myself severely, because in retrospect I should have stuck to my guns, and I should have, I guess, gone to the point of putting my career on the line to force the issue, and I didn't. I chose another path, and maybe I was younger then, and maybe there seemed to be more at stake, but I think if the same thing happened today, where I'm now 60 years old, I think I would be comfortable enough to stand my guns and say, no, this is the way it's going to have to be, or I'm not going to be involved.
Okay. Last question I have is about what would you say to a young student that is approaching, getting out of college, just approaching graduate school? What do you have any suggestion to him how to direct his future, especially if somebody is interested and curious in science?
I think the very first thing such a person has to ask is, do they want to go into a research-oriented career? Because it turns out they're smart and capable and have done well in college, and it seems like a respectable thing to do. Or do they want to go into it because as they work on various problems as an undergraduate course, they've gotten really enthusiastic and passionate and curious. And if the second part is not a substantial part of their answer to those questions, then there are plenty of interesting jobs available for very capable people that don't have the kind of pressures of the research world. So ask yourself about your inner level of passion.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Gary.
Okay.
This is Gary Parker, and a big hug. Bye.
Bye.